welcome to Man Baby's World. Please make sure that you guys like, comment, subscribe, turn on that post notification bell, and as always, comment down below just to let us know how we're doing, if you're interested in the videos that we are posting, because that's our main goal, is to keep you guys interested, keep showing y'all the different angles and the aspect of life. A lot of people think that, oh, we start at the top. No, you don't start at the top. You start at the bottom and you work your way to the top. So being able to see it from us will be us showing you our journey as far as where we started, how we ended up where we're at, and how we're doing now. So Man Baby World is going to be a channel all about Cameron. So Cameron is our 2-year-old son, and he will be like the star of all of this once I catch you guys up to speed. So starting now, our first 8 videos is gonna be pretty much letting you guys know what it was that happened as far as how come we ended up having him at 27 weeks, how long he was in the hospital, when he came home, and the different challenges we faced after him coming home as far as him being a premature baby, because of course he was very small. Then we will kind of like fast forward and get you into who he is now, the things that he's doing, how bad he is, because yes, he is very bad, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It's truly been a blessing watching him grow, and that's pretty much what we want to share with you guys. Also kind of give y'all like a behind the scene of how he got the name Man Baby, because he was doing some pretty crazy stuff that we didn't even think that he should be doing at the age that he was. But you guys will get to see all of that before, like I said, before we actually get into who he is now. So first topic for today is going to be when we ended up having him. Alrighty, so Cameron was born February 26, 2020, weighing 1 pound 8 ounces. I ended up having him at 27 weeks because I developed a case called of preeclampsia. For those of you who don't know what preeclampsia is kind of like where your blood pressure kind of takes control of your body. So in other words, I had a blood pressure of like 200 and something, which could have caused me to go into a coma, could have caused me to die. So we had to take certain steps as far as what we wanted to do, if we wanted to save the both of us or none of us. So at first the plan was just to kind of like have me stay in the hospital until I turned 35 weeks and try to keep me pregnant until I was 35 weeks. But it did not go that way. That blood pressure kept rising and rising and rising. I kept feeling worse and worse and worse. And I put up a good fight because I tried to hold him. I really wanted to hold him until I was 35 weeks, but it did not work out with that. By the end of the week, I was tired. I was exhausted. I didn't have no more fight. And I really had to make a decision. Well, we really had to make a decision on whether we wanted to have him early, or the chances of me dying, or the both of us dying, or me dying and he living. So we really had to make a decision on what we wanted to do. So of course that decision was, let's go ahead and have this emergency C-section. Let's go ahead and have him. So we had the emergency C-section. Oh my goodness, let's get to this needle. So the needle on my back was like the worst experience ever. So they stick me the first time. Well, before they stick me, they gave me like a little clear drink to drink. So for those of you who've had a C-section, you know what I'm talking about. They gave me like a little clear drink to drink. I drank that really fast, spit it up. It was like, oh my goodness, she's spitting it up. We don't know if we're gonna be able to do this. So at this point, I'm scared, because now that means if they can't put the needle in my back, they're gonna have to put me under, which means I'm gonna be under and no one is gonna be in the room with me. And then I'm gonna have a baby and not even know that I had a baby. So they was like, let's try the needle. So they tried the needle. The first stick, they stick me in my back, didn't go so well. I don't even think he knew what he was doing, because then they came and brought someone else and they ended up sticking me in my back, and they got the needle in, they hurry up and lay me down, and that's when my husband was able to come back there and kind of, you know, be that moral support to keep my nerves good and all that stuff like that, because having a C-section is like one of the major things that I've ever had to be through. So we had the C-section. He was born. For 1 pound 8 ounce, he came out crying. Everything was okay. The only thing was he was born early. He was small, and of course he wasn't going to be able to go home right away. So he was 1 pound 8 ounce when he came out. Cameron's whole name is Cameron Levi High, just in case any of you guys were wondering. So the very next day after my C-section, they kind of was like, okay, hey, it's time to get up and walk. I'm like, what? I just had a baby. You expect me to get up and walk 24 hours later? So I got up, I started walking. My blood pressure came back down to a good level, but of course now I was on blood pressure medicine, and I had to take 4 pills 3 times a day. So I was on my blood pressure medicine. I had to get up and start walking. Kind of walked the whole hospital, came back to my room, and then like the very next day after having him, I had to go. So now it was like, okay, you're going home, but the baby's staying here, which was like the most difficult thing that me and my husband had to go through as far as us coming home, but no baby. I don't know if any of you ever had to experience that, but if you have, you know that that is the worst feeling in the world, because now your nerves are all over the place. You don't really know what's going on every second of the day if you're not there, and it's just like one of those things where you kind of gotta put all the trust in God and just hope that he sees it all, he knows it all, and hope that he sees your child through the situation. So I got released the very next day. I came home, and thank God I had my husband as a moral support. I mean, I got my 6 weeks, but he ended up getting his 6 weeks. So he was home with me for 6 weeks. So that kind of helped me get through it and not be like, oh my goodness, go into postpartum depression, because I didn't experience any of that, but that's because I had that moral support that I needed, so I didn't have to experience any of that. Our journey to the hospital was really us going to the hospital every other day. I was breastfeeding, so him not being home made my breast milk a little slower. Eventually it kind of like picked up, but it took a lot of work as far as pumping. You know, you always have to pump. So I was pumping every 3 hours, getting the milk that I needed. So every other day we was running downtown, because we had him at MUSC. So every other day we was running downtown trying to make sure that he got the milk and he got everything that he needed. Being able to see him every other day was like, okay, yes, this is my baby, I'm seeing him, but it wasn't the same as what it was when we finally brought him home. Because it was like, I was robbed, well, we both was robbed, almost 3 months of not being with him. Not, you know, we was with him every other day, but him not physically being around us 24/7. So I feel like we both was robbed that opportunity of what a newborn is like being at home. The hospital, they did an amazing job as far as taking care of him and making sure that he was okay. We had a few, you know, nurses that we didn't really too much care for, but I think that's everywhere. You got those few that they really don't want to be in the job, but they're in the job because it benefits them in some type of way. So we ended up going down there every other day. Cameron was in the hospital for 84 days. He came home 4 days before his original due date, because his original due date was May 25th. He came home May 21st. So he came home 4 days before his original due date, and bringing him home was the best feeling ever. Like, the best feeling ever. It was like, wow, we really got our baby. He's really coming out of the hospital, and he's really, really coming home. He came home weighing 5 pounds 4 ounces. So in the whole process of him being in the hospital, from 1 pound 8 ounce to now 5 pounds 4 ounces, came home, and our nerves was just like bad. Like, our nerves was like, oh my goodness, how are we gonna do this? He's premature. It's certain things we have to do. It's certain, you know, it's different ways to tend to a premature kid versus a kid that was full term. So he came home May 21st. Our first night home was amazing. I think I had so much anxiety. I don't really think I even slept that night because I wanted to make sure that he was okay. I wanted to make sure that he was breathing. I wanted to make sure that everything was okay. Now, the good thing about him coming home, he didn't come home on a breathing machine. Now, some premature kids, when they come home on a breathing machine or pacemaker. They come home on some type of machine, but good thing he came home and he didn't have any of that. So it was just him fighting on his own. Now, about 2 weeks into us actually birthing him and bringing him in this world, he ended up having to have a blood transfusion. So that blood transfusion was like, we got the phone call, hey, we gotta do a blood transfusion. I'm like, why? Like, why would you do a blood transfusion on a baby that's so small, so innocent? Like, what are you talking about? And I wasn't there, my husband wasn't there, my husband was at work, I was home. So my nerves was like, oh my goodness, why are y'all doing this, and that? But it was like, it was the best thing to do because he had more white blood cells than red blood cells. So it was the best thing to do for him. Now, before the blood transfusion, he really wasn't like moving. He was just laying there. It was almost like, okay, he's not even gonna make it, but he did. So he had the blood transfusion. He accepted the blood transfusion. After he accepted the blood transfusion, he started doing everything that he needed to do. Like, he started meeting the milestones that he needed to meet as far as taking in his food, as far as breathing like how he should. So that blood transfusion was definitely something that needed to happen. And I'm glad that we made the decision that we made to go ahead and let it be done. Because if we didn't, it could have probably went the other way, and me nor him, we did not want it to go the other way. So after having him home and bringing him home, the experience was very beautiful. Like, we got the bond. He got the bond with me. He got the bond with his dad. So we really got the bond and really be parents. Like, we was parents with him in the hospital because, like I said, we was going down there every other day. But we really got to be hands-on parents, be able to change diapers, be able to give bottles, be able to wash them off. So, you know, we got to really like be parents. So after that, and having him home was like the best feeling ever. Like, I was like, wow, I'm really a mom. My first Mother's Day, I celebrated my first Mother's Day without him because, of course, he didn't come home till May 21st. So my first Mother's Day, he was still in the hospital. But the day before Mother's Day was very special. My husband made me feel really, really good about myself and let me know that, you know, I'm going to be a great mom and I'm going to do everything that I need to do when it comes down to him. Then we went to the hospital, of course, on Mother's Day, which I will put a picture next to this video showing you guys my first Mother's Day and our first Mother's Day actually in the hospital with him. So fast forward a little bit, he's been home for about maybe a month or two now. And you know, most premature babies, because they're premature, you can't just rush them back into the world. You know what I'm saying? So we spend a lot of time at home. We limit a lot of visitors because we just didn't want him to get sick. Because him getting sick with me, he would have to go back in the hospital, and God knows how long he would have had to been in the hospital. And that just was something that we wasn't really ready to face or have to deal with, is him having to go back in the hospital. I think that was like our worst fears. Okay, we have him home now, so let's make sure that we do everything so that he doesn't have to go back in the hospital. Let's make sure that we do everything that way. There's nothing that can harm him, that can hurt him. But as much as parents try to protect their kids, you can't protect your kids from everything. You can try, but you can't. So him being home, we had appointments. We had a pediatrician appointment. We had hearing appointments. We had eyes appointment. So the hearing appointment was great. It went well. He can hear out of both ears very fine. His eye appointment went very well. They were really concerned about his left eye because when he was in the hospital, it was basically saying that his left eye looked like it was, like he was going to have some type of problem. He might not have been able to see out of it. But luckily, he didn't have that problem. His eyes were perfectly fine. His weight was perfectly fine. After he got out the hospital, he started gaining the weight like how he needed to. The major thing that we had a problem with after him coming home out the hospital was his formula, because I was breastfeeding while he was in there, but I stopped breastfeeding because they was like, oh, well, if you breastfeed him, it's going to take longer for him to get out of the hospital. And at that point, I'm like, I don't want it to take longer for him to get out of the hospital. I want him to come home. So if bottle feeding is gonna get him out of there, then I'm gonna bottle feed, because at this point I just want my baby home. So I stopped breastfeeding, and we also realized like a numerous of things, as far as we was bringing in like 10 or 8 or 11 bottles of milk, and it was like he was only getting like one tube this big. Like, how 10 or 11 bottles of milk only get him one tube? So it's like, where the rest of his milk was going at. So we started noticing that, and we was like, oh, we ain't about to be feeding nobody else kid. Like, we're not doing that. So that was another reason why we stopped breastfeeding, because it was like we was bringing so much milk in that there was no reason why he was only getting one tube of breast milk. So I decided to stop breastfeeding. So he came home on formula. He came home on Neoshore Pro. It's like in a yellow can. I'll put a picture up next to it. It's in a yellow can, but he came home on that, and the formula just wasn't agreeing with him. It seems like we would give him milk and he would do fine half the day, and then sometime towards the end of the day he'll have like a real bad spit up, and like that went on for months until we finally figured out what milk actually really worked. And it took us kind of figuring that out, because hey, we was taking him to his doctor, we was doing all of that, and the doctors wasn't even giving us, they was telling us, oh, try this, and none of that stuff was working. So finally I was able to find a milk that actually worked. It was a Similac milk, but it was like for pro sensitive. So it was like for a real sensitive stomach. It helped with gas, all that stuff. It was actually in like an orange and white little jug. I'll put a picture of that up as well, so you'll see what milk I finally decided to transition him to, and it worked up until he turned 1. So I'm trying to think of any other challenges we had as far as milk. There was no other challenges as far as milk. We just had that one challenge where it was like he could keep it down half the day, but then eventually he would end up like throwing it up. Life was good though. It was really good after he came home. It was like our family was now complete, and it was like, okay, let's take over the world. We traveled a lot before the kid, but after the kid we kind of like slowed down, because you know COVID came about, and it was like, okay, we're not going this place, but as couples with the kids, if it's your first kid together, I know after having a kid you're kind of like, oh, let's focus on the baby, let's do this, let's make sure the baby's okay, but you cannot forget about your relationship. If you forget about your relationship, it's only going to make things more complicated, and it's going to make things like awkward between the two of you. So please, if you're about to have a baby, once you have that baby, don't forget about the importance of your relationship. Make time for each other, because they can get real busy with the kids, and your partner starts to feel like, oh, you don't make time for me no more. We don't do this no more. We don't do that no more. We don't go this place no more. So really make time for each other. Keep things spicy. Keep things, going, because it can still be all of that even with the kid. We took a lot of trips. We traveled. We went to North Carolina. We went to Florida. We went to Virginia. We took like a lot of trips that kept us going, but we was traveling with the baby. Of course, I'll drop a couple of pictures on the side of this video as well, so you can see like, okay, we weren't just staying still. Our kid was home. He was healthy. He was growing like how he needed to be. So we traveled. We got that traveling on the go, and we traveled, and we made the best out of those 3 months that he was in the hospital. So we finished that first year out with a banger. There's going to be some other things that I'm going to talk to you guys about. I'm not going to talk to you guys about everything in this video. The next video is going to be more in depth of the life or death situation. So the next video is going to be me speaking about my labor and delivery, what caused me to go in the hospital early, the signs that I had before I went in the hospital, and the doctor didn't catch on to it, nothing. So the next video is going to be more in depth of the life and death, what happened during my delivery, how my delivery was, everything. Then the video after that will get a little bit more in depth. I don't want to give y'all all the juice. It's just a little juice to kind of get you prepared for what's about to come. Like I said, these first couple of videos is gonna really be just focusing on what happened before the baby, as far as how me and my husband met, as far as labor and delivery, as far as having him early, as far as the different challenges we face with the premature baby, as far as developmental skills, all of that stuff. Like, we really want to kind of like catch you guys up and get you guys up to speed. That way when we start dropping videos of him now, because like I say, he is 2 years old now, so before we start like dropping videos and trying to get you up to speed with who he is now, we kind of want to give you the background so you know who we are and you know how we got to where we got to. Once again, I don't know if I introduced myself in the beginning of the video, but I am Shakira. I am his mother. On the video where we talk about how me and my husband met, you guys will actually get to meet my husband, so we'll have the both of us in the video. So I'm excited about that. But like I say, please make sure you like, you subscribe, you comment down below, you turn on that post notification bell, and tell everybody about us. Tell your cousins, your auntie, your granny, your pop-pop, whoever. Tell everybody about us and let them know, like, hey, we got real, genuine people that's showing you the real. Because a lot of YouTubers, they don't show y'all the real. They start where everything is peaches and cream and they in these big old houses and they got this, they got 50 different cars and all that. They don't show y'all the real. They don't show y'all like where it all started, like how they started to the bottom and now they're here. So we're gonna show y'all like the real on how we started and where we're going. Thanks again for watching.